fossil fuels.
Oil.
That's the crude oils. Okay. Then after that happened and it broke up, then we started getting palms and stuff growing. We had things like palms start to grow. And then we had another break where we had palms turn actually into plants that were plant-like, and then the plants started having pollen, which they were sexing. So as they sexed, they grew huge and spread, and all these green trees and everything grew across the world. It took off, and the world was covered with fucking forests. Okay, and as they got subducted, forest, and as they kept getting subducted, these forests, they get just covered up, they turn into coal. That's why coal sits above oil. Now you got oil real deep, then you got gas with the oil, then you got the coal. And coal you can make gas out of too. It's also got, see, they're both the same thing initially. They're organic materials. One's plankton, one's wood. They're both organic. They're both carbon. They both will contain gases and oils. You can get oils out of coal. They just formed at a different, I guess if you put that coal farther down and heated it up, it may turn into an oil or substance. But right now it's sitting on top.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So, I've never heard any extrapolate that, but I imagine if it's going to go down 100 million more years, it's going to change.
Yeah.
Because the heat's going to change it.
Yeah, you'd think so.
Yeah. So, we've got things going on like this for so many years, and we're worrying about a little bit, yeah, the cars are polluting, but not like the power plants in India and China.
And all of this stuff we're doing seems pretty...
will have no impact as long as India and China keep doing what they're doing.
I mean, not us as in America. I mean, us as humanity is not actually doing a whole lot that the Earth has seen this before, but not in this form. It just came in forms of crazy Earth events, like crazy volcano events and
the Earth has seen
stuff.
Adverse events affect the climate. It's so much more disastrous.
We're not.
streams.
So when people freak out and say we're ruining the world, we're ruining humanity. We're making it harder for us to live here.
No, we're not. No, we're absolutely not. We're actually making it easier for us to live here. We're making it harder for people to live in specific locations, like on the edges of oceans, okay? But the problem right now is we have 20% of the Earth's surface covered in ice, tundra, and all this shit that can't be utilized. So basically, the fertile places are covered in ice. If we're smart, we get rid of that ice. How do we get rid of the ice? We warm the planet up a few degrees.
So Alaska and Canada are going to be huge producers of crops in the future.
Well, right now they're huge producers of fish, hunting, wildlife, all that shit. It's just going to open that up. 80% more of that area. Every summer, more people will go to Alaska. More people will go to Canada. Will all of a sudden be a breadbasket.
Yeah.
Russia will be a breadbasket. It has lands that are so rich in carbon and shit.
Right.
The permafrost, when you start digging that shit in, all that nitrogen into the soil, yeah, you're going to release CO2, but you're going to have a very fertile soil from thousands of years of production and nobody fucking with it.
And you could easily offset that with the amount of nutrients and stuff there with trees and stuff like that.
Well, there's so much nutrient in the soil right now that hasn't been... See, when we do it, when we farm and take everything out and then farm again and take everything out.
Yeah.
Okay, nature farms and puts everything they farmed right back into the soil, so the soils become rich with that whatever bio that mass needed.
But right now we have to do it the way we're doing it.
No, we don't. We're just stupid because we're so lazy. We leach soil out every year, and we don't. The problem started when we started building dams. When the first dam went up, it stopped the downward crops from being having all the minerals and that kind of stuff placed in it. The trace minerals and elements. See, we can put NPK in the soil.
Yeah.
We don't put trace minerals and elements back in the soil. Okay, the trace minerals and elements are what make up. It's like if you took all the nutrients out of your system, but you just put 3 in and said live, you wouldn't live long. You need a wide variety. Otherwise, you won't taste as good, you won't be as strong. All these things will be affected by the fact that you're being nutrient deficient.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what all our mass-produced crops are. They're nutrient deficient. They're big, they look good, they don't taste very good. Why don't they taste very good? Because they don't have the nutrients that give them the taste. When you do organic, you can't believe all the stuff you put into the organic to make it taste good.
When we lived in our other place in Pasadena, Mike, their fruit trees were insanely delicious, and all the veggies you grew, and even the lettuce was awesome.
I prepped the soil with chicken shit and organic materials and all the nitrogens, and then as the years went by, since we weren't able to reintroduce all the biomass back into the soil, they got less and less potent and tasty.
What do you think about what's going on? What is it in Holland, or what's happening with the farmers somewhere in Europe?
In Europe, and they started this in
what is it, Mike? The nitrogen? They don't want you to use like bottled nitrogen, fake nitrogen.
In Sri Lanka, the government made a big deal, and they outlawed all the nitrogen, and the entire Sri Lankan government fell. Okay, the people can't even feed themselves. They're all on UN aid and stuff like that. The government is in a ship offshore because it's not safe to be on the thing, because it's such, and they fought the Tamil warriors for so long, and then after they beat the Tamil warriors because they were so brutal to them, this family, they elected everybody and appointed everybody from the family to run the government, and they've run it into the ground, and now the entire country's fucked up. Okay, that's exactly what happens when you take fertilizer out, because you can't feed your people.
That's what I'm saying. They can't.
That's what's happened in Sri Lanka. They outlawed the fertilizer, which completely destroyed the agriculture, which means they had to import all their food, and then they didn't have anything to sell. So when your economy goes from producing to not producing and having to go on loans, you're fucked.
You're bankrupt quick.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And it's a huge country right off of India.
Do they want to do that in America? Do they want to?
Well, that's what Holland's doing. Holland was trying to limit, because Holland is an unusual situation where the flow of the waters from the farms go right out to the shallow seas and affect all the production of fish and all that stuff.
So maybe they need to figure out their collective irrigation or something.
They need to figure out getting natural fertilizers into the soil. Right now, you're always using unnatural fertilizers that leach out way too much of the fertilizer.
But they can't just flip the switch like this.
Can't flip the switch. We can't flip the switch with electric here also. Yeah. You have to turn the dial slowly until the infrastructure to produce the shit and the waste products.
How do they incentivize all the farmers to do that, you think? Like, what do you think's the best way to... You got to give them some tax breaks, or give them free fertilizer, or give them money or something, right?
We release waste into the ocean and shit.
America?
Well, everybody does.
Yeah.
Why? That's nitrogen. If you turn that nitrogen like they do in Mexico, they have from Ensenada, they pump all of their shit uphill to a plane up here. Then they bubble it out and dry it all out, and they spread it across the fields. And then they take old dead radishes and old dead carrots, and they spread it across the fields, and they let it rot.
Yeah.
And then they mix it into the soil there, okay? And I know this because I accidentally rode up into this mountain thing. I got past the stinky stuff. I got to the shit plant, and I figured and it kept getting worse and worse. I almost got sick and threw up. It was so nasty.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot. I learned that all the shit was pumped up here. They took the shit, they put the nitrogen in the shit, they put it right back into the soil. They took all the extra stuff that they couldn't sell, and the carrots and all that crap, celery, carrots, all the shit, and they just mixed it all in. They made this dirt that was super
dirt.
And after 2 or 3 years of this stuff, all the bad bacteria from the human's consumption and shit was gone. So now you've used your nitrogen. Now you can reuse the nitrogen, so you can source it out to the farmers, so they can buy your nitrogen. You don't have to buy this nitrogen from world companies that are going to sell you their nitrogen.
So maybe like in Holland and everywhere here too,
they need to do the same thing.
We need a catch system, something to catch and filter. And
did you missed that part? That when I got stuck riding up that area, I almost puked, because that entire area, it stinks so bad that you can't be in it.
So it's a pretty unpopular thing to do then.
Well, you have to find an area to do it close enough to humanity, but everybody wants to live where everybody wants to live. So how do you create that? See, in Mexico, there's a lot of rural land that nobody even wants to bother with, and it's just rocky and absolutely worthless terrain, this is where they did it. Yeah. And it's far enough away. It's like 1.5 miles away. I rode my mountain bike up there all the time. Boom. I mean, I rode my mountain bike through a field of cilantro, and almost got sick. Cilantro in fields on both sides of you is so strong when it's growing, it's sickening. So it was the only way to get through. So the next time I get through, I built the speed up and went as fast as I can through that cilantro field. It's only like 200 yards.
Yeah.
But if you take your time, you get nauseous. It's just, wow. Oh my God, it's just overpowering. So a lot of these things that people do aren't really liked by general public. So you have to do them far enough out that I only find out when I'm out in the outskirts. Yeah. I find out these things. Wow, you can't have anybody living next to a cilantro field. It'll just overpower you.
Well, we figure out a way to do it with like hog farms and crap like that, where they're really stinky and nasty feedlots and things like that.
Yeah, but what happens is in LA there used to be feedlots everywhere. It was cow country, and they pushed them all out to the river.